This week on AtoZrunning, what is the most important thing every runner needs to know to realize our dreams? As we continue our series on rules to realize your dreams, we tackle number 6, get knowledge.
Hey everyone, welcome back to AtoZrunning, where we help runners thrive. I'm Andy.
And I'm Zach, and you can learn all about what we do at AtoZrunning at AtoZrunning.com. And you can follow us on YouTube and Spotify and the many places where the podcast is posted, like all the major platforms, and anywhere else where you see the name AtoZrunning. Mm-hmm. If you had to pick one distance runner that you are most confident in for a gold medal in any event at the World Championships, who would it be? Oh, by the way, everybody, the World Championships outdoor track and field are this weekend. Woo! And then the next 10 days. It's like a 10-day event. Depending on when you're listening to this, who knows? But they start on September 13, and it's going to be really exciting. So, Andy, who's your number one pick for a gold medal, like a sure pick?
Faith Kipyegon is my
You were going
sure
to say
pick.
that all along.
The only thing, though, that makes that pick a little bit more iffy is that she hasn't really been racing very much. So I don't...
Well, she made that 3,000-meter world record attempt. That wasn't very long ago.
It wasn't terribly long ago, but it wasn't as recent as other performances from other people. But she still is... Like, if she's healthy, which she most likely is, I think she's a sure thing for a medal. Especially if she does two events. If she does both the 15 and the 5,000, I feel like she has to win one.
Well, but I mean, you have to pick the event.
Okay, well, the 15 then.
All right. So Faith Kipyegon in a 1,500 gold medal. Yeah, I mean, that's the safest bet you can possibly pick currently in track and field, because not only is she undefeated in everything she's done in years, but also she, with the one exception, the 5,000 meter, right? Beatrice Chebet beat her in that in the Olympics. Anyway, in the 1,500, she's undefeated for years. She's also clearly in top form, running very nearly a world record in the 3,000 only a few weeks ago. She did run a 1,500 meter world record earlier this season. Like, she's in the best shape of her life, and he doesn't ever lose. So yeah. As a matter of fact, you probably would lose money if you bet on Faith Kipyegon and she did win, because your chances are so good that she's going to win. But I have to say, if I were to pick someone else in something else, my other, I think it's time. This person's definitely winning a gold medal. Do you know who it is?
No, I don't. I don't know.
Keely Hodgkinson in the 800.
Yeah. That's a pretty good one, too.
Except she's fragile.
She is fragile, but she's run one race? Two races this season.
2 races.
And they were both winning races, also super fast. Not slow races.
But she is the queen of not winning a race that she's supposed to win at a championship
maybe
event.
The pressure isn't as high because of her turmoil this season.
Well, we will see. We will see very soon enough. The first final on the docket for the World Championships is the women's 10,000 meter. And I don't really know exactly how this works with the timetable because I wasn't paying close enough attention. But I think if you're watching live in Eastern time zone, then you have to watch the women's 10,000 meter at 8:20 a.m. on September 14th. Because it's happening, it's Tokyo, so it's 12 hours before or something.
Yep.
Not quite 12 hours.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to learn more about how the broadcasting will be.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's going to be really exciting. And the next time you hear from us, we're going to be sharing some of the results, because remember, it's a 10-day meet, so it's going to span a few episodes, some of the results, and it's going to be very exciting. But first, before any of that, we want to talk to you about knowledge. In the past few episodes, we have been breaking down our 9 rules for realizing your dreams as a runner. And if you've been following along, you know that we are up to number 6 as far as the count. And that means we have shared the 3 things you need to be. You need to be patient, consistent, and balanced. We've shared 2 things you need to get. You need to get help, and you need to get vision. And today we're going to talk about the 3rd thing you need to get, which is knowledge. And then next time we're going to start in on the things you need to stop or quit. And that is going to be important as well.
Because everyone loves to be told what not to do.
Exactly. Well, I think it's...
I'm being facetious here, but
I know.
In reality, it is nice to have some clarity.
Yeah, there are certain things we need to stop doing as runners, and ASAP is the imperative. So we'll get to some of that as far as our opinions go, at least on the matter. But for now, we want to spend some time on the knowledge concept. And this one in particular is kind of obvious. Like, it's good to learn about things that we want to do or that we want to do well, because that's probably helpful. But in case you needed someone to tell you why it's important to get knowledge, we thought we would start there at least. And the most important reason is where that whole proverbial phrase, knowledge is power, there's a source for that phrase, a conceptual source. I don't know who first said it. I didn't spend too much time trying to research the history of that.
That would have been some great trivia.
Yeah.
Okay, continue on.
So what it is, the conceptual basis is that knowledge gives you the capacity to make better choices about everything. The more you know about something, the better choices you can make about the thing. And so that is why it is power. It gives you power over something, the poor choices or the ignorant choices you might have made otherwise. And you could say, in a cynical sense, it also gives you power over some people, the people who don't know those things. But we're not talking about like hoarding knowledge in that sense of like having power. But to gain knowledge is to open the door to better decision making and not making certain mistakes along the way.
Part of our coaching philosophy is sharing knowledge with our athletes. A lot of people come to us and want us to tell them how to do things, but we always pair it with why we're doing it. And because of the reason Zach is saying, we think that all those micro choices are better informed, even if you have a plan, if you understand why you are doing the thing you are doing.
Right on. So to riff on the principle just a little bit before we get into some of the practical suggestions we have for this. The idea, the concept that we often mention as we're discussing this with people more specifically is this idea of being a student of the sport. And I can't recall where that phrase originates. I think it's actually a Lydiard comment as far as running goes. I think it goes at least as far back as Lydiard, if not further back. But to be a student of the sport is a kind of mindset. And that's important because it's not just like not gaining knowledge in a thing is not just about knowing the answer to a question, a particular question, or knowing a certain kind of fact or a certain bit of information. It's that whole mindset that we see in education a lot of the times where it's like, why does a student need to learn these things when they can just, once upon a time we said, look it up in an encyclopedia. Then we said, Google it online. Now we say, just ask AI, right? Which, by the way, all of those are the exact same principle. And so anyone who said like AI is something new that's changing the world, it's not. It's just an extension of the things. It's just more of the same, and it does it, of course, at a higher degree. But anyway, so what is the point then? And the point is, it's not about knowing that fact or the answer to that specific question. It's about the principal experience of what happens to us as we learn about things. And that can be contextual and it can be general. It's just good. Learning is good for your life, for your brain, for your physiological health, in fact, not to mention psychological health and otherwise. But also then, in the specific context of running, the learning process makes a better runner more than just answering a certain question or knowing certain information.
And what's kind of thrilling about being a student of the sport of running in particular is that it is really becoming a student and intuitive of yourself. How does my body work and react? My physiology, but also mentally. Mm-hmm. So if I'm becoming a student of the sport, I am learning to better listen, better understand how my brain and body works, which is a really cool thing because this study can help you in all areas of your well-being, both mentally and physically.
Yeah. If there's one major takeaway that we have both, Andy and I, experienced over the course of our lives being runners, which began in our single-digit years, it is that we know how to be healthier humans broadly as a result of our study of the sport of running. And that's no small thing, because there's a lot of things that we know about the body and how it works that we wouldn't have pursued learning outside of our interest in running, because that was the context in which we learned it. Not to say you can't learn it otherwise, and not to say that runners are the healthiest people on the planet. I mean, we are. But aside from that, so we could say, and this is the way Andy phrased it, we're really learning about ourselves. We're learning about the body and such concepts like physiology and biology generally, and then we're learning how to apply those understandings to our own individual circumstances, which are unique. Every person's physiology and biology has particular nuances that are not the same as every other person.
And lives with a million variables.
All the things, right? All the things. Which is why you have situations like, if you take this medication, one of these 10,000 different things could happen to you, side effects, and you may die from 17 of them. We don't know, though, because you're different than the 10,000 people who took the studies and all had different reactions, which bothers me a bit when I think about that. But at a minimum, we're answering questions like, how does the body get stronger? You know, physiological questions like, how does the body get stronger? How does the body respond to stressors? What kinds of stressors are good? What are bad? And when is the right time for either of them? What are the physiological effects of psychological stress? So we're learning how these things happen and function generally, and then we're able to take them into our own circumstances. The same thing with biology. How do internal systems work? How do my life choices affect my biological systems? Sleep, hydration, nutrition, all of those things. It is good. It is good to know more. It is, but not just knowing. It is good to learn. And in the learning, we're going to be better for it. As runners, possibly even beyond. I won't make any promises, but it's that important. So if we're going to now make the assumption that everyone here with us is a student of the sport. And you could say that means you are a student of the human body and how your body works. And so if you're willing to walk that road, which we're encouraging everyone to do, then the next questions are, what are the ways, the better ways, the different types of ways to get knowledge? How does that actually happen as humans? But then specifically within running, what do we encourage? And then what are some good sources of knowledge? And then ultimately, the most important question, which is, what is the most important thing to know? The one most important thing to know as runners. So we want to break that down for you here for a few minutes. Starting with ways to get knowledge.
Mm-hmm. We talk about a lot here at AtoZrunning being an intuitive runner. And one of the ways that we can learn is through our own experiences. And in order to do that, we do have to have some amount of reflection. I think a lot of times we are overstimulated in our lives, and it's easy to be neglecting the information that our body can give us to learn. And so we have to be intentional about it in order to receive it and learn from it. So that means we need to consciously have daily check-ins. Some people have running logs or even further running journals, and these are good ways to learn about one's own experience and our own physiology and response to stress.
Developing understandings like when I did this, this happened. When I didn't do this, this happened. Or when I did this, this didn't happen. You know, some of those kinds of things. What we have found over the years is that much can be learned by just a little bit of regular attention. So having a way for me to just capture, and it does not have to be, you already know how I feel about Strava as anything, as a vehicle for this or otherwise. But it does not have to be a terribly formalized structure. It doesn't have to be perfectly consistent. Like if you miss a day on your running log, then it's worthless and you should quit running, logging, not running. And so like we tend to have those types of mindsets,
all
right?
Or nothing.
All or nothing. Thank you. We have those kinds of mindsets, and you can gain much from little with this kind of thinking. And the principal point is the reflection. So you don't have to even spend any significant amount of time on the data collection or documentation, but just thinking as you run. One of the ways that we like to do this is like after a race, just thinking about what decisions did I make in the race. It's nice to go for like a 10-15 minute jog after a race and just use that time, often with other people, and jog with other people, and just talk about how did the race go? What did I do well or not well? Like that kind of stuff. Those are good things to do. What we're doing within reflection is we're taking a thing that we may have known in a moment, and we're actually turning it into a lasting understanding. And so the way that they describe this in terms of like brain research is that neural pathways don't really actually form until you do the reflective process, the metacognitive process. And so until I spend some time thinking about that thing, even if I had a revelation or an insight at some point, it probably never actually turned into a neurological connection. So it didn't stay, more than likely. And at a minimum, it certainly isn't turning into future decision making. And so the reflective process is great, is key.
Also, we have a really bad habit, at least I shouldn't say we. I guess I shouldn't say we. I think I have a bad habit of protecting my bad habits. So, for instance, if I really like to, let's say, stay up late, and I do not include that as part of my reflective process and why I might feel a certain way on my run, then I'm not learning because I'm blind to my bad habits. Or I have a stomach ache every time I run, and then you find out it's because, you know, I'm drinking just coffee and I'm not eating food, and that's why I have a stomach ache or I'm having these problems. So sometimes our mind protects us without reflection, the habits we want to keep that we might need to modify.
Now, Andy doesn't actually have any bad habits, so she's probably just talking about other people. But it is important to be able to contextualize these things as well. And so, even though we started by talking about ways to get knowledge with your own experiences, fundamentally, what is almost always going to be the case is until I have a basis for understanding the thing I'm thinking about, I can only go so far with turning these reflections into informed decision making. And so that's where these other areas then really prove to be necessary. I would go so far as to say necessary. We need to get good information from outside sources, outside ourselves. And so that's, something as obvious as like reading books and all of the things that come with, ways to learn information. And so like listening to AtoZrunning, which is the best one, among others that are lesser but good. And in the same time, developing a kind of categorical understanding of things. And so here's the stuff that I'm learning from this, and it's this kind of information. And then I learned something else about that kind of information from another source, and now do they support each other or do they not? And now I have to, if they don't, I have to find other sources of information and begin to understand which ones are more authoritative and or correct and otherwise. And over time, we develop a kind of base understanding of how the body works, of what happens in training and what happens to us when we do certain things. And then from there, now those reflections that I have as I'm going for my run and I'm saying, wow, I really feel this way. Now I can start to apply categories of understanding to that reflection and say, my sleep patterns, my nutritional patterns, my current psychological stress or stress load and some of these things. And so it allows me to make even better decisions with those reflections. It's good.
And when we talk about learning from various sources, one of the sources is other people asking questions. And a few weeks ago, Zach had mentioned like a couple different ways we do that. One is by listening to stories, or perhaps you're talking with a friend about their experiences, but it's passive, right? Because you're not asking specifically about yourself. You're finding out what someone else did in their set of circumstances in order to achieve their goal or learn something new or make this progress. And then more active would be asking questions about yourself. Hey, did you see anything in my training cycle that you would have changed? Or you talk to a coach. That's a really good way to do it because they know exactly what you're doing and what you're going through. But those are more active. Maybe it's like, at the gym, you have a trainer who's helping you with form of your weightlifting. Like that's like direct feedback about what you are doing, right? So that's one way to learn is from that outside perspective. And then Zach had mentioned the other areas of gaining information by, research, books, podcasts, articles. All of this stuff, there is so much information out there. And so it can feel overwhelming. And that's why we're going to recommend some of our favorite sources.
Yes. So what Andy's referring to, by the way, with the active and passive was in the episode about getting help. Mm-hmm. And so go back. It's only 2 episodes ago. Go back and listen to that. That particular dynamic is one of the most important lenses we feel we can apply to this kind of thing. I'm trying to learn something. I'm trying to get help in learning something. Anytime you read a book, you're getting help from that author, right? Because that author is sharing ideas that you can take or leave otherwise, but that's very passive. That's the principal point there. It has nothing to do with me directly. When I can read a book and then talk to a running group that I have about it and my own particular situation, and people who have read the book or have insights can speak into it, or a coach who is specifically charged with supporting me in my own personal endeavors. So that becomes significantly more valuable to take that information to a deeper level. So as Andy said, what is a good place to start? You're already listening to the AtoZrunning podcast, so you've made the best choice.
Wow.
You have started. And
humble.
So the thing that of course I'm joking.
He is joking, guys.
The thing that actually is absolutely true, though, in this kind of reflection is where is the information coming from is something we should always be wondering as we're seeing and hearing and reading and otherwise. And within running, the running universe, there are not that many fundamental sources of information. There's like a few originals, and they basically wrote about everything because there's just not that much that you can write about in the topic of running. Like, you really can only write about so many different reasons why long runs are good before you've covered all of them. There's nothing else to be said, right? So, and I say this somewhat jokingly, but it is really actually quite true. And here's how you can prove this to be true. If you read the first 3 books that I'm about to list, then read anything else in the running universe and ask yourself, which of those 3 books are these ideas most coming from? And chances are, it's not always like linear. Sometimes it's a combination of them. But it's like, oh, I've seen that somewhere before. Yes, because it's in one of those. There are 2 originals, you could say. And then beyond that, this other one that I just think is deserves to be in this kind of reflection for a certain reason. We'll say why. Basically, we've got these 4 books. I keep throwing out numbers. We have these 4 books that we have found to be some of the most helpful. The first is actually 2 books that are on the same topic and principles. Running with Lydiard, which is the book Lydiard wrote, and then someone else kind of worked with him, and they did some revisions over the years. As a matter of fact, the final revision to the book was only like a couple years before Lydiard died. And so to the very end of his life, he was making revisions to this to try to have it be the most up-to-date thing.
It was a little convoluted in some regards, unless you knew his training intimately. Some of the ways that he wrote stuff wasn't very clear.
Well, that's why it's paired with this other
one.
So Running with Lydiard is Lydiard's description of what he thinks is the way runners should train to be the most successful possible. But he describes it in a very, this is what Andy's saying, kind of convoluted, but I guess the best way I would say it is he assumes you know what he's talking about at times when you don't. And so then you also need to read Keith Livingstone's Healthy, Intelligent Training, because then he explains all the Lydiard concepts in detail. So if you don't know what Lydiard's talking about already, when he says something like maximum steady state, you're like, I have no idea what that means. Then you have to read Livingstone's book too, because together they explain Lydiard's approaches and understandings in clarity and with many examples and details. But here's what Lydiard presents to you in this book, is he essentially presents what is understood to be the modern concept of what it means to train as a runner. He created that concept. And I do say it that way. A lot of people argue that Lydiard stole his ideas from all these other people, and it's like Paavo Nurmi was doing that and Emil Zatopek was doing that. But they weren't. They weren't. And that's just all there is to it. They were doing things, and they had various successes with those things they were doing. But Lydiard took all the things that anyone thought they knew about running up to the year 1956, essentially, and he tried them all in various ways and refined everything into a process. He was the first one to do that to the degree of thoroughness that he did. And then he tested the process for decades with runners all over the world. He coached runners from all over the place and proved its success, and then made slight tweaks and modifications over the years to make it more palatable as well as more applicable in all these different contexts. And so what we think we know about running today as far as training approaches probably comes from Lydiard, regardless of what it is however we fill in the blank. That brings into then the question of Daniel's running formula, which is what people will say that's like the different approach, right? But it's not. It's not. It's just Jack Daniels is the author. He took these Lydiard principles and he said, I don't necessarily think that that's the way we should integrate these things. So let's map it onto a different approach, but let's make sure that we keep the core principles that are most understood and important. And so he took these principles and he made some adjustments to the approach. It's not the same kind of approach. He also wrote about a number of things that Lydiard simply didn't spend much time on, which I think is valuable. Lydiard talks about things like how to tie your shoes, right? Like literally, how to tie your shoes as a runner. It's in his book. Jack Daniels talks about how to breathe. That's in his book. And so like you get a comprehensive dynamic. And between the two of them, you're basically now going to be exposed to all the variations of training approaches in the history of time. In some form or fashion, it's all there in those two books. And there's lots of different, like people will say, oh, but double threshold training, no one wrote about that. Well, no, not exactly, but double threshold is not a new principle. It's just the application of an old principle in a slightly new way. And it's not even new anyway. It's been around for decades, for many decades. But, everyone everyone likes to
But
find
now
something
it can
and call
be
it
done better because of science.
Well, yeah, you could say,
Because you can actually prick your finger during a workout where that was not accessible information.
right, but almost no one is actually doing that part.
Right. Okay. We don't need to.
Principally, you're getting everything you need to know about how to train as a runner from those two sources, Lydiard and Daniels. And then if you want to read some of the more like people have these more nuanced approaches and stuff, there's some other things out there certainly, but it's those things fundamentally. And then the third book is Steve Magnus's The Science of Running. And what Magnus does with that work that I think makes it one of the pinnacles for runners to read is he just explains all the physiology and biology of all the things. And it's not like, the most up-to-date and comprehensive. So you're going to find some information in there where it's like, yeah, there's some studies that change our understanding a little bit from here.
But he's updated. Like he, as a researcher, I'll call him that, still updates like his website with the new research and is reflecting continuously. But the book itself, right?
Yeah, the most current edition of the book may lack some of the most current research studies on the planet, but that's not going to change the base science behind these things. And so that's important because then what you get is you read Lydiard and Livingstone together. There is plenty of explanation of the science there, but Lydiard didn't even have access to most of that when he was writing and trying this stuff. And so the science wasn't the baseline for everything he was doing. Magnus is going to just dive deeper into the principles and concepts. It's also very comprehensive, so you're not really lacking anything. I think it's an adequate title, The Science of Running, generally. That's adequate. It's pretty thick, pretty heavy, so it's one of those things you don't sit down and read all at once. You can pull the book off the shelf. It's a big one. And then the last one here is, okay, so those are all like training principles and concepts. What about like movement, which is because running is all about movement. It is really good to have some good understandings. And Daniels covers some of this stuff. Magnus covers some of this stuff, but Jay DeSherry tells us how to do it. And to the degree that nobody else does. So Running Rewired by Jay DeSherry. You could do The Anatomy of a Runner, which is his first book in this vein. But I think Running Rewired is actually a better read because of what else is included in it.
Okay, can I give it like a little like I also like this book?
Well, there's lots of others.
Okay.
Before you do.
Wart and Stretch book.
Yeah. Before you do, there's lots of others, and we can just like start throwing out titles, which Andy will share a couple here. But what we're trying to say by this is we're trying to say you need to start somewhere, and in that order is probably the right way to do it. Now, what we have completely neglected, Lydiard and Daniels both talk about nutrition. I mean, Magnus does too. So nutrition's embedded into all of these, but there are some good works out there that are more fundamentally focused on fueling and nutrition specifically. You could certainly add that into your mix. You're going to get the baselines from all of these other ones. But for example, we're not trying to neglect the topic, as it were. But okay, go ahead, Andy.
Oh, I was just going to say, I like Wart and Stretch book because it's, I think, the ideal way to access mobility of the joints.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Okay, here we go. What is the most important thing to know? If you want to realize your dreams as a runner, this is what you need to know.
With this whole topic of knowledge, this seems so counter to what we're saying, but nothing is guaranteed. You can get all the knowledge, do all the right things, and if the goal is outcome oriented, you might be disappointed because there are a lot of variables that we can't account for, things that happen that we don't expect. Nothing is guaranteed. So
there's no point. Quit now.
Not true. I really, truly, and you're going to hear it all over the world in all different types of industries, but it has to be process focused. There has to be something about this process that is edifying, renewing, valuable, transcendent to an outcome, a time on the clock or a finishing medal.
Case in point, those two statistics that I always forget which one's which, but
that you say all the time.
I say it all the time, and I don't remember which one's which, but it's one of the two, and it's shocking either way. What is it? 50% of runners are hurt every year at some point. Okay, so half of us are going to be injured this year at some point, like an injury that disrupts our training. And at any given moment in time, 25% of runners are injured in a state of injury. So why should I assume that by doing the right things, I can somehow avoid the statistics? The statistics.
Well, you can improve your chances. I mean, all of the knowledge is valuable. It's good. And I think, though, that sometimes we feel a false sense of control when we check all the boxes and do all the things, thinking that we can 100% guarantee an outcome. We just cannot.
Right. Well, you didn't let me get to the hopeful part of my point.
Oh.
I'm not trying to just be cynical and pessimistic. There's also a 50% of people who aren't injured this year. And there's the other 75% who are not injured right now. You can spend more time in that statistic than the other one. But what you can't do is you can't say that if I do all the right things, I'm going to run a PR at the next race. If I do all the right things, I'm going to qualify for Boston at this event. And, fill in the blank, right? It's just not something that we can know with certainty. And so we need to know that fact, because that allows us to then be content in the moments when they do go awry and say to ourselves, what's the famous, it's Italian or French?
I don't know what you're referring to.
C'est la vie. Is it Italian or is it French?
You're putting me on the spot.
You don't know the phrase?
It's been a long time. I know what you're saying.
Okay. C'est la vie. But as it were, that's only one of the two most important things to know. You thought we were only going to say one, but we're actually going to say two. Because the second one then is, it is imperative for a runner, if I want to realize my dreams and really be able to take this thing into infinity and beyond, I need to understand what it means to exert degrees of effort deliberately with my body. And when you can learn that, then you can gain significantly more from everything you do as a runner. But that's a topic for another conversation. At a minimum, we have now shared with you the 3 things you need to get, the 3 things you need to be. Coming up soon are the 3 things you need to stop. And that's also going to be very interesting.
Zach loves to say stop. I'm just kidding.
I don't like to say that any more than any other words, but I do want to tell you that we're not done yet, because we have got some exciting and interesting things to talk about from the latest in the world of running.
We're going to start with a couple shout outs for A to Z runners. We had 2 athletes run in the Erie Marathon, Jessica and Grace, both with very strong marathons.
Was it creepy?
Was it eerie?
Running in the Erie Marathon. Congrats. Mm-hmm. Well done, and always a great achievement. So, let's talk about the Diamond League Championships.
Woo!
It's been a little bit, depending on when you last listened to us. The Diamond League Championships may have been a week ago, may have been 2 weeks ago.
But the good thing about this is that I know that not as many people watch the Diamond League as watch the World Championship. So if you're among those who don't watch the Diamond League regularly, this is a nice little glimpse at who's hot right now.
Everybody
who's fast
listening
right now
to this does not watch the Diamond League regularly.
What?
Because we're the only 2 people. Well,
sometimes it feels like that.
Us and Q are the only 3 people on the planet who watch the Diamond League regularly. And there's only 3 more people who watch the World Championship. So we're getting there, but progress is slow. Let's talk about it. Diamond League Championships is a meet that is essentially just whatever the last meet of the Diamond League is. And so usually it's Zurich, the Zurich Diamond League meet. Every now and then it's another one.
Like it was, I think last year it was the Prefontaine Classic.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
2023, I believe. But yes, that happened. Yep, that's an example. So what they do here is you score points as you race throughout the Diamond League circuit. And when you have enough points, and it's all based on your score relative to the field, you don't have to have a certain number of points, but it's like the top 12 scorers go to the Diamond League final, or they get invited to the final. And then if they choose not to, then they go down the list to whoever's. And so then they have a field size, and for each event, they just fill that field size, which with whoever's the top scorers. So then the Diamond League Championship is essentially a kind of demonstration of who has had the best season over quite a span of time. Diamond League starts in April, like right at the end of April or beginning of April, one of the two. It starts in April and then spans all the way through August until the beginning of September for the championship. So that's a very interesting model. It means that you get some runners who are hot early season and then kind of faded off, and you get other runners who did almost nothing early season and didn't start racing until later, and they clash in the championship, and who knows. But also, because the Diamond League Championship this year was right before the World Championships, like 2 weeks before, a lot of the medal contenders for the World Championships chose not to race.
Yep.
And there's a lot of reasons why that might be the case, but so you're going to see that too. Okay, so winners of the Diamond League final for each of these events here listed earn the Diamond League title, which comes with bonus money, which is great. It also comes with a wild card entry, a guaranteed entry for the World Championships. So if an athlete is not already qualified for the World Championships, if they win the Diamond League final, they're in.
That's a really big deal.
It is. It is.
Because there's not many guaranteed spots by any kind of win.
Nope.
Right? I think the only one is the previous World Championship.
And there's some world cross country thing with the 10,000. Yes. So you can be a previous champion, the previous World Championships, but there's a maximum of 4 from any given federation or country. And so if your country, for instance, has 3 qualified and the defending world champion, you already have 4, you don't get a 5th. And so that wild card entry, you don't get to use. So that's a bummer. But we kept talking about Yared Nuguse, right? And Josh Hoey, both from the United States, both missed out on qualifying for Team USA in their respective events. And yet they're both some of the top runners in the world right now. If they win the Diamond League final, they get in. So we're going to tell you how they did because that's on this docket. Let's start with the women's 800 meters. It was electric. 8 women from 8 different countries. Incredible athletes. And yet, the ones winning the races in September are not the same ones who were winning the races in May and June, which I find to be very interesting. So who wins the Diamond League final for the women in what is clearly a unpredictable 800-meter field? It's just been going all over the place. For instance, the Diamond League point leader for the season took dead last in this race. Sorry, Eddie Wiley, but you didn't run well. And yet, the one who won the race was not on anyone's radar for the first half of the season.
At least not ours. Maybe her friends and family.
Well, yeah, but that's because they're friends and family. Running a new Swiss record en route to a Diamond League title was Audrey Vero from Switzerland, obviously, in 1:55.91, becoming the second fastest for the year so far this year, behind only the great Keely Hodgkinson.
Isn't that amazing how quickly things can change?
Well,
someone you didn't even know wasn't even on your radar is now a medal contender.
And the last 2 races Vero has run were both personal bests and both national records. And you just wonder if she can keep this momentum, then she's definitely a medal favorite for the World Championships. No doubt about it. But
top 3, he means. He still thinks Keely Hodgkinson's got it.
She's run over a second faster.
Yeah.
And she's only run 2 races, and they've both been super fast by herself. Like, she just is in that kind of shape. So Vero won the Diamond League title. Pretty awesome. She was already going to the World Championship, so that didn't affect that. But it was in fact a narrow victory over Great Britain's Georgia Hunter-Bell, who's also looking strong and an Olympic medalist to boot, running the only other time, now being the third person this year who has run under 156. She went 155.96 for a personal best. So when you got an Olympic medalist in personal best shape, you're always wondering. You're always asking questions. It's good stuff. And
she knows she needs to run personal best to be a contender.
Well, if she wants a chance at a medal, she's got to run that kind of race again.
And remember, she's a medalist in the 1500, not
Indeed.
in the 800. But we've learned this season that the 800 is her favorite preferred event.
Is she entered in both? Do you know?
I don't know.
I haven't looked. I haven't looked at the entry list lately, but whatever the case may be, Georgia Hunter-Bell taking second narrowly. And then in third place, over a second back, was France's Anaïs Bourgoin, however you say that name. And she certainly running a strong race to win over, for instance, Shafiqua Maloney in fourth place, who ran a Vincentian record, 157.29. She has run that record many, many times. As a matter of fact, she's the only one who has run for St. Vincent and Grenadines in the 800. She also is, the first Olympian? First Olympian from St. Vincent and Grenadines last year.
Amazing.
I think she was fourth in the Olympics, was she not?
Wow.
She was up there. Okay, so there you have it, women's 800.
Men's 800, always an exciting event.
Did Josh Hoey do it?
Did he do it? Did you expect that he would do it?
No, and he didn't. So there was a moment in time because Josh Hoey just won a Diamond League title over Emmanuel Wanyonyi like 2 weeks ago. And so then people were like, oh, maybe he can do it. If he wins the Diamond League title, he's going to the World Champs. But it was pouring rain in that race, and clearly not like everyone was not running their finest moments, including Hoey, even though he won the race. So when it comes down to another one here, the Diamond League final, I'm actually not sure what happened. But Hoey ended up in last. In last place. Bummer. But Emmanuel Wanyonyi took the W. Not surprising
That's
to anyone.
Not surprising. He's been winning all his races except for that one.
Yeah, except for that one. But his biggest challenge, in fact, this time came from the young Brit, Max Bergen, who may well have won that race if it was 10 meters longer because he was flying down the home straight. And Bergen's just looking great for medals. There's a lot of
another newish name.
Yeah. I mean, he's only recently, 20 years old? He's a young guy. Marco Rapp in third. And I just got to wonder, is that the medal list for world champs right there? Is it going to be Wanyonyi, Bergen, or Rapp? I think it could be.
Well, I mean, we can be hopeful for our Donovan Brazier and Hoppel, and who is the young guy again? Remind me.
Yeah, right. Cooper Letkenhouse.
Yes.
He's not gonna win.
What about Donovan Brazier?
Brazier is a big wild card coming into the World Championships, and the one that I'm perhaps the most excited about.
Yeah.
Brazier, don't let us down.
I think it's very possible. I think it's possible that he'll get a medal.
Give me 2019 over again.
Let's do it.
U.S. record, gold medal. Do it. All right. How about the women's 1500?
I have to say that one was a little lacking in star power comparatively.
Yeah. Well, because the two big names just didn't show up. They didn't run any races.
Yeah.
They're getting ready for world champs.
Yep.
And that's Faith Kipyegon, of course, and Gudaf Sige, who ran 350 solo this season. Kipyegon 348, Sige 350. Nobody else has been close to that, with a mild exception for Jessica Hull. However, how'd she look in this one?
It was very unusual to see this kind of race from Jessica Hull.
Yeah.
It was not what we expected. I think that there was a lot of expectation going into this race because she's been the closest one to being able to challenge Faith Kipyegon. and she led by a lot. And you would have thought, oh, she's got this in the bag. But she did something I have actually never seen from her, and that's tie up.
When Andy says tie up, she means that in the last 150 meters or so, Jessica Hull just died. Like everything was gone. And she actually started to look like she wasn't even hardly able to stay on her feet. Yeah. It was really painful to see. And as a result, she lost the race. Nelly Chepchirchir, who, if you recall, had an undefeated season only until recently, showed that she still got it. And she was kicking well. She never would have caught Hull if Hull didn't tie up like that.
No, in fact, you wonder strategy-wise with the gap that Jessica Hull had, she did not need to be running that hard. So it makes you wonder, like, oh man, did she like push herself over the edge needlessly and miss out on her title?
Well, she definitely missed out on this title. The question is, did she just ruin her World Championships run?
Like, did she do some
you put
damage?
yourself in that big of a hole. Sometimes it takes a few weeks to crawl out of it. That means Hull ended up second, just ahead of countrywoman Lyndon Hall.
Don't forget about Lyndon Hall.
Yeah,
Lyndon Hall has been doing well and has historically done very well. There was a period of time where you didn't see her name pop up quite as much, but she's back.
Yeah, like 25 years ago, you didn't see her name at all.
I'm saying like a couple of years ago, right?
I don't know what you're referring
I
to,
don't
but yes, we'll just go with yes.
It was a stretch.
And the men's 1500, once again, one of those races that you didn't know exactly what was going to happen here.
I was shocked. This was probably the one I was most shocked about.
Really?
I was very, like, I did not expect this podium.
Oh, interesting. So Yard Naguse needed to win if he wanted to run in the World Championships. He did not win. He wasn't even close to winning. In fact,
again, I think that pressure is a problem for, like, I don't think that pressure is, I should rephrase this. I don't think that pressure is necessarily the problem. I think a lot of times people will rise to the occasion, like for the Olympics, but usually it's like the dream that drives them, not the fear of disappointment, the fear of like losing. I think that it's much more motivating to have a dream of gold or a dream of a medal than it is to like, I need to do this or else I end my season.
Well, the conversation around Naguse has been interesting this year. Ritzenhein, his coach, Dathan, had something to say about it, in fact, in reflection after the U.S. Championships when Naguse missed out on qualifying for the team. If you recall, he led the race and just couldn't break enough people off, and then they just all kicked him down. And Ritz reflected on, we may have made a mistake, he was saying, about the strategy, because they were operating in that race under the assumption like what was in the past. And his comment was, the U.S. field in the mile right now is probably the most competitive on the planet. And they just underestimated how talented the whole field of American milers is. Because you run a race like that, and Naguse is putting on the heat, and everyone's still in it. You can run world-class times right now, and 10 Americans are going to be right there with you. That is frightening, especially because they're all good kickers. So Naguse paid that price, and hopefully they can learn some lessons from it and come back better than ever in the future. But for now, you have to, in order to have success on the global stage, you have to beat some crazy talented runners. And some of them are out of the United States, but this race showed us that not all of them are out of the United States. Let's not forget about the likes of Niels Leros, who came on over to the pre-classic and showed the Americans exactly what he's capable of, and then he did it again here. And now everyone is saying Niels Leros is coming into the World Championships as the gold medal favorite for this event. And I do not think...
Even after this?
That's what I'm saying, because of this.
Ah.
I am not saying that it's the best bet out there right now, but I think it's a good one. So Leros, just with a crazy kick in the end, ran a new Dutch record, 3:29.2, which is a PR for him, but he's 20 years old. He's still fresh. Actually, in fact, I personally think the biggest surprise was that was his personal best. I was like, he hasn't run faster than that? Because there's guys in this field who've run like 3:27, 3:28. It's like, come on, Laros has run those times, right? No, not actually. But his kick is savage. And so he won the race, deservedly. Now we're wondering if he's going to win the next one too. But the Kenyans made a statement behind him, taking second through fourth. Fanwell Koech, who's the 18-year-old Kenyan, allegedly, 18-year-old Kenyan, who has just been having an incredible season. This was actually the slowest race of the year, or maybe right about slowest race of the year, which is saying something. He was third. It was Renaud Chariot of Kenya who ended up second. He has also been having an incredible late season, winning the Kenyan championships as well. So we'll see. There's a lot to be said. Timothy Chariot in fourth. Then
used to be the leading Kenyan.
2019 world champion right there. So 3 Kenyans in a row for second through fourth. That spells danger for the global stage as well.
Yeah.
How about the women's 3,000? So they did not run a 5,000 at the Diamond League Championship. The 5,000 competition contributed to the 3,000. So you get some runners who have run 3,000, some have run 5,000, some have run both.
The women's 3,000 had a similar story to the 15, where there were fewer big names showing up.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, like none of them. None of the favorites were here. So it was wide open, which also makes for an interesting race, because now strategically it's like we really don't have a clue who might win, and they run significantly differently in those types of races.
Well, no one wants to take it because no one's like, I know confidently that I'll win this race. And so it was slower than the women's races typically tend to be in championship style. Trends that women typically run fast in championships, not this one.
Yeah, but so that is true.
I mean, it was fast in the end. It just started out slower, I should say.
Yeah, right. Which is true, but at the same time, you get people taking risks more readily than they might otherwise, because there's not as much of confidence in certain race
right.
favorites.
So there could be like a mental barrier. Let's say you have someone like Faith Kipyegon. Are you really gonna run like way ahead of Faith Kipyegon? I mean, or are you gonna let her control the race?
Right.
So maybe it allows for some of that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like when those people aren't in the race, now other people in the race are saying, I think I can win this. Where Josette Andrews never would have thought I can win this race when Faith Kipyegon or Beatrice Chebet was in it. Because they're literally in a league apart. Like, you're not even close to their caliber. Now, I'm not trying to hate on Josette Andrews, for example.
She's amazing.
She's great, but she's not Faith Kipyegon. And so now when those kinds of people aren't in the race, then you get an entire field of women who are all thinking, I could actually win this one now. And they're thinking it legitimately, not just trying to tell themselves positive mantras. So that means that some risk taking, but also some fearful running, and tentative is the better word than fearful. Tentative running, which is what Angie's referring to. So it's slower a little bit. But then with a lap to go, everyone thinks that they're the ones who are going to be able to take it. And so you get this crazy competitive stuff going on. Well, with 200 meters to go, it was still anyone's race. In fact, USA's Josette Andrews looked like she was going to be the moneymaker until she wasn't. And she succumbed to the kick of Ethiopian Fantaye Belena, which was still close. It was very close.
I mean, to medal, though, for Josette Andrews, like, that's a big deal for a U.S. woman to...
It's not a medal.
I mean... Second place. Okay.
It's only a first place prize in this one.
Okay. Well, she was second place. She was podium. There we go.
Podium. I don't know if they did podiums either, but I get your point.
You understand? A top 3 finish at this championship is a big deal for a U.S. woman.
Indeed.
So congrats.
Very impressive.
To Andrews.
And just good setup for the World Championships, because yes, it's true there's going to be other runners in the World Championship 5,000, which is what Andrews is running. But that sets her up for like, I can beat a lot of these women.
Yeah.
Now I just got to do it again. Men's 3,000 was a similar kind of story. Missing some key players, but at the same time, some serious global threats in the race. And so you could say the difference here is the race went similarly to the women's, but for a different reason. Now the men's race is going this way because everyone's pretty confident that if they take too big of a risk, they're going to pay for it dearly, because there are people in this field that will make you pay for it, like USA's Grant Fisher, who probably has one of the greatest kicks on the planet right now. Biniam Mehari from Ethiopia, who won the Ethiopian 10,000 meter championship. Is he still a teenager? He's 19 or 20 years old. I think he's 19 years old. He's still a teenager. Jimmy Gressier of France, who's in top form. He's been running French records. Andreas Almgren of Sweden, who's been running Swedish records this year. So, like, people are in the best shape of their lives, and they're some of the best runners of all time. And yet, none of them are like a clear favorite for the race, which just makes for a really exciting time. So what does it come down to? It's a kicker's race, and that means that you're expecting people like Grant Fisher to rise to the top. Fisher looked like he was going to take this thing until he didn't, and Jimmy Gressier of France just steals the victory. And I say steals because Gressier, he's been running fast, but he hasn't been beating necessarily all the key players. Well, he just showed he's got gold medal potential. Here's how this works. For the men's 5,000 for the World Championships, I think there's like 7 different guys who could all win that race. I think it's possible. 7 different guys who could all win that race. And that
anyone in the race could win it, really.
Right, but there's
technically
not really
I know what you're
everyone
saying.
who's got his equal chance. Okay, so just really, let's wait and see.
But how did it end up? What were the places?
Gressier won the race.
Gressier
over
and then
Fisher and Almgren.
Okay.
Yep. So there you go. Women's steeple. Last up in the women's races. Once again, most of the key players were not there, except Faith Chirodich. She's been a little bit quiet in the late season, but she came back with a vengeance, showing us that she is, in fact, still in good shape, whatever the reason for being quiet.
A very sweet vengeance, though. If you watch her run, she just kind of looks like very unbothered by how hard the steeple is.
You could say.
Yeah.
She did just make it look easy, winning by 13 seconds. 8:57, just casually running at sub 9.
Not strained.
No, Nora Geruto was in second, 13 seconds back, and Faith Chirodich looked like she was unbeatable in the early season, and then Yavi proved otherwise. But Perth Chemutai is always a threat. I think the World Champ steeple is going to be a blast for the women. The men's race was more unpredictable because the key players not being there, and then
because we didn't know the names of these people. They were new to me.
Well, sure.
Are they new to you?
No. But but they are not the people that you have been seeing win races this season. And so when you've got Edmund Serum of Kenya, who's the younger brother of the famous Serum from Kenya, Amon Serum, he is showing his capacity here to certainly be a steeple star. But it was Frederick Rupert of Germany who took the lead and won his first Diamond League.
I mean, I had never heard of Frederick Rupert.
That's because you don't pay that much attention to men's steeple.
I kind of do.
I mean, who does, really? Though?
I do. I mean, Kenneth Brooks brought that attention in the U.S. I've always enjoyed watching steeple. Maybe I just don't remember everybody in the race.
Haven't won,
but he hasn't been winning. Yeah, has he been winning any of this stuff?
He's been winning stuff, just not the ones
that I'm watching.
Not the ones on the global stage. I mean, really, if Soufiane El Bakkali isn't in the race, is in the race, he's going to win. And if it's not him, it's one of 2 other people in the last decade. So no, you wouldn't know his name.
Well, it would be fun. Now that I mentioned Kenneth Rooks, it'd be fun to watch Kenneth Rooks do a Diamond League circuit.
Yeah, maybe, or it would ruin him like it does for so many.
Okay.
That much racing.
Wah,
All right.
wah, Zach being negative.
I know. I'm just, who knows? Let's wrap up with a kind of blitz of some of the other key events that have happened lately that we think you need to know a little bit about. The Sydney Marathon is now a World Marathon Majors, so we should probably cover it begrudgingly.
I thought you were going to say we should probably go, which then I would readily agree.
Why? We haven't
I
gone
wanna
to any
go.
of the other ones. We are not going to be running the Sydney Marathon anytime soon. It's on the exact opposite part of the planet from us.
Well,
But
I'd like to.
the course is net downhill, enough that it is not records legal.
Oh.
So we need to remember that. Also, it has more climbing than Boston or New York. So when people talk about the difficult marathon majors, Sydney falls under that category. Yeah. So also, finally, a side note, word on the street is that the broadcast was atrocious. Like, audio didn't work for like the first half hour, and then they would cut out of the race to like show interviews right when interesting things were happening.
Oh no.
So it's like, clearly no one's paying attention that this is a time when we want to watch. And they barely showed the women at all. Just like didn't really hardly show them at all. So that broadcast needs some work. But aside from those concerns, it was still an interesting event. On the women's side, headliners Sifan Hassan and Brigid Kosgei were the big notables, and they did exactly what everyone thought they would. They beat everybody by a lot, the two of them. And in fact, Hassan had the better of Kosgei, which shows that Sifan Hassan is getting back into prime form. Remember that she took 4 months after the Olympics last year of not running at all. 4 months. and then she ran London Marathon and still finished third, which is, she is just so much better than everyone else in the world. Sifan Hassan has won 3 now of the World Marathon Majors.
Cool.
There are 7 now, remember. She's won London, she's won Chicago, and she's won now Sydney. So there's a question here. What's next for Sifan Hassan? She's done everything that there is to do.
Little side note about Hassan. Shout out to Aaron who sends me reels of Sifan Hassan's interviews. I think it's incredible how someone who is so amazing, set apart in how well she does as a human being, she seems almost unreal. How her interviews make her so relatable. How can someone so spectacular be so relatable? I just think she's
leave it
great.
at that. Yeah.
I just think she's so funny.
But she's not funny on purpose. So it kind of
I think she's leaning in.
feels like we're laughing
I think
at
she's
her.
no. She's leaning into it. Her comments about eating ice cream and
I don't
just
think that's
how
deliberate,
the
though.
marathon is just so painful. I think that I think she's relatable. I think she's got her candor is refreshing.
I think she's just being just in the moment herself. She's not trying to be anything other than whatever she
Which makes her more
is
relatable.
at that moment. You could say that.
Yeah.
You could say that. Okay, so Sifan Hassan won the race in 2:18:22. That's a new course record. Not surprising. Also an Australian all-comers record. Oh. Like the fastest time run in Australia.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Sifan Hassan ran there.
Kosgei
for the very
was
first
only,
time.
Yeah. Kosgei was only like 30 seconds behind.
Okay.
So they kept it tight, and they finished 3 minutes ahead of third place.
Okay.
So there is that.
Understandable.
On the men's side, the big headliner was Eliud Kipchoge, but not because he's like a favorite to win the race, just because he's famous. Because Kipchoge has not won a race in a while now. And that's not surprising because he's at least 40 years old. There's a big question mark. How old is he really? Because he looks like he's 70, but he
does not. That's hyperbole.
No, he's like the old wise man.
And he is very precious.
He's like the sensei on the mountaintop. Kipchoge is at least 40 years old, and he still runs world-class times, but he is not winning races much lately. And so that means he really wasn't the favorite to win this race, but there was still notable attention.
I mean, wasn't he top 10?
Yeah, which he continues to be.
I think he's great.
But,
he's not going to win.
No.
But he's still top 10. Fantastic.
But Kipchoge has won everything. So it's
Right.
it is okay for him.
For this stage of his life, I feel like 7th is great.
The final 10K of the race was a two-man duel between Ethiopians Haile Mariam Kiros and Adisu Gobena. And it was eventually Kiros, who has also finished top 5 in both Chicago and Tokyo. But this is his first World Majors victory.
Good for him.
Yep, absolutely. And it was a course record and an Australian all-comers record as well. Hey, remember Ed Cheserek?
Yes.
The NCAA standout who is so amazing that they called him King Ches.
I do remember this, yes.
Yeah, he still runs. But he hasn't gained a ton of attention because his pro career just has not been that spectacular. But he ran pretty well. He was 5th place in this race and some strong performances.
Well, that's good.
It is. All right. How about the USATF 20K Road Championships? 2 things that you need to know about that race. First, Connor Mantz broke his own 20K record, U.S. record. He set that record in the Houston Half Marathon previously, and he ran 7 seconds faster than that here. That's exciting because Connor Mantz has declared that he's going for the American record in the marathon in Chicago in just a month's time. And so it's good to see that he's in good shape. Yes,
PR shape.
The last time that he ran that fast when he did Houston Half, he then went on to run 2:05:08 in the Boston Marathon, which would be a U.S. record, except the Boston Marathon's not records legal.
He and Ryan Hall can commiserate.
Well, because if it was records legal, then it wouldn't actually be a U.S. record because Ryan Hall ran 2:04:50 something on that course some time ago. But anyway, definitely Mantz is in shape to do it. We want to see it happen. We want to see it. Khalid Kanuchi can't hold that record forever. By the way, when Khalid Kanuchi set that record, the U.S. record, back in 2004, 3, 2, something like that, it was actually a world record at the time. Yes. Yes, indeed.
Fun fact.
Okay. Mantz won over defending champ Hillary Bohr. And
previous podcast guest.
Yep. And then back in 5th place was Casey Klinger. The reason that's notable is because Klinger just bounced up to first in the USATF circuit standings. He's 3 points over Alex Mayer and 6 points over Hillary Bohr.
Oh, it's tight.
And there's only one race left.
Okay.
And it's the marathon. And I don't think any of those guys are running it. So I mean, they do run marathons, but I don't think they're running this marathon.
We'll see, I suppose.
By the way, the USATF Marathon Championships this year is being held at the California International Marathon, at CIM.
Ooh, so it might be really fast.
It will be fast, that's for sure. All right, on the women's side, the second thing you need to know is that Aubrey Frentway continues her year's success. She ran 2:27 at Grandma's Marathon, which is only her second marathon. She's only a year out of college.
Wow.
Right? Went straight to marathoning. She ran her first marathon in Chicago last year, only 7 months after she graduated from college. And now she went to BYU, so she's probably like 32 years old. But that's the old BYU stereotype. Oh. You didn't catch my joke, did you?
Well,
no. There's
I don't see what the big deal is.
An old BYU-ism that everyone who graduates from BYU is like 4 years older than people who graduate from other schools. Cause
that's okay. It's fine.
No, it's because they go on a mission.
I know. So I don't know why you're teasing that.
I'm not. That's an ongoing joke about BYU.
Well,
all right. As it were, she is having great success in her early days in her pro career. And so now that bumped her up to 4th in the circuit standings. Wow. And if she does run CIM, which it seems likely that she may, because the timing's nice. Right. She ran Grandma's Marathon. If she's doing another marathon this year, CIM's good timing. So we'll see.
Well, that she's qualified for the U.S. trials because it's opened now, right? Is it opened? It was going to open in September.
It opened in September, but she ran Grandma's Marathon.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yes. And then a quick note that Carrie Elwood, who's back in 5th place, bumped up to number 2 on the circuit standings. And I don't know if she runs marathons. So We'll find out. All right. Last note. 5th Avenue Mile.
Always a fun one.
Always a fun one.
Unique event.
It is a downhill mile that is super duper fast.
It's like my dream come true.
So, yep. So everyone runs it, and the times are like crazy fast, and people are like, "What?" And then they remember, "Oh yeah, it's the Fifth Ave mile. It's always absurdly fast," and so it's kind of fun. But more than anything, it's just also a race where a lot of the big names come out just to kind of wrap up their season, and it's a chance to flex one last time before they're done for the year.
Well, not really. Some of these people are going to Worlds.
No, I don't think so. Schweitzer didn't qualify for Worlds.
No?
No.
She usually does.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. But I don't think so this time. Anyway, I don't recall seeing anyone on the list who was on Team USA. But
Okay.
there could be. So you've got on the women's side, Karissa Schweitzer, the defending champ, ends up in third place after a late race surge from both Kaylee DeLay in second and Gracie Morris winning her first ever Fifth Ave title. Gracie Morris is on a rampage. She's been winning all the road miles this year. All of them.
Sweet.
Yep.
Another fresh face to be looking out for.
True that.
On the U.S. scene.
And on the men's side, a little bit of redemption, just a little bit, for Yard Nagoose as he takes
Well, we got a paycheck. I feel like that's
the Fifth Ave title.
makes it feel a little less worse. I said that in a weird way. It probably eases his pain a little bit to get a big paycheck.
You could say. Parker Wolf, by the way, looked great, and that's a good sign because his pro career is just getting started. Parker Wolf in second place there. All right. There's a lot more to be said. We'll talk about the World Championships next time we're back together. Before we end our time here, we need a little bit of World Championship trivia so that you know some of the interesting things coming into this.
I first have to
meet.
apologize that I did not get a gift for Zach yet as part of my losing
I wasn't
duties.
going to bring attention to it, but Andy is already showing herself to be a sore loser.
I'm not.
She is refusing to perform her duties as the loser.
I'm supposed to get him a gift for him winning the previous cycle of trivia.
Yeah,
and I haven't done that yet.
Have not. Hey, we are going to do another round of AI trivia, and we have our AI personality back with us again. So please say hello to the A to Z Running audience.
Absolutely. Hello to all the A to Z Running listeners out there. It's awesome to be back with you for another round of AI trivia. Let's have some fun and see what kind of questions Zach and Andy have lined up.
Excellent, thanks. I'm glad that you said A to Z as well instead of A to Z. You know, the British English version instead of the American version. That's very colloquial of you. We like it. Okay, so our topic this time is very focused on an upcoming event. The Track and Field World Championships is coming up in just a handful of days from when we're talking about this. And so what we would like to do for the topic today is this year's, so the year 2025 Track and Field trivia. Can you give us a question for this year in the global track and field world?
Here's a fun 2025 track and field trivia question for you all. In this year's World Athletics Championships, which are happening in Tokyo right now, Tokyo is actually hosting the championships for the third time. They previously hosted in 1991 and 2007. So here's the question. Can you guess which nation currently holds the most medals overall in the 2025 championship so far? Let's see who gets it right.
Oh, they already had the race walk. I saw that.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
They already had the race walk?
Ask
first day.
Ask what events.
What events have already happened in the World Championships?
So far, yes, a few events have already kicked off. The race walk events did indeed happen early on. Good catch. And the men's 100 meters preliminary rounds have already taken place. The women's marathon is actually coming up next, and the men's marathon will follow soon after. So there's definitely a lot of action already underway.
Well, let's do this. Instead of what we're hoping for this trivia is not questions about the World Championships event itself, but questions about this year's season, track and field season. So if you can go back and give us a new question, we want our first question to be something from the track and field season in the year 2025. And when you give us the question, give us 4 possible answers, one of them being the correct answer. And we'll guess.
All right, let's dive into a 2025 season trivia question. Here we go. In the 2025 track and field season, which athlete won the women's shot put title at the NCAA Outdoor Championships with a throw of 19.1 meters? A. Athing Mu, Tara Davis-Woodhull. C. Maya Lesnar McLaughlin-Lebrone. Take your guess.
None of them.
Uh,
None of them.
Wait, he said women's shot put.
None
I'm
of
gonna
them are
say
shot
C.
putters.
What did he say for C?
He said Sydney McLaughlin-Lebrone.
For C, okay. All of the women you just listed do
Don't-
not do the shot put. So you did not give us a correct answer.
Oh, you caught me. That was a bit of a curveball. My apologies for the mix-up on those names. They're definitely not shot putters. Let's fix that. Here's the real question. In the 2025 track and field season, who won the women's shot put title at the NCAA Outdoor Championships with a throw of 19.1 meters? A. Adelaide Aguila. B. Yorinda Van Klinken. C. Alyssa Wilson. Jessica Woodard. Now that's a proper shot put lineup, so give it a guess.
Well, we're going to at least take 1 point for catching it. Remember, we have to take that point. But we both get it because we both knew. Okay, you have a guess? Just random guess? Yeah,
It's
go
a
for
random
it.
guess. It's
Okay.
Sorry, guys. It's random.
All right, we're guessing either the second one or the third one. But which was the correct answer?
All right, well, you had a pretty good instinct there. The correct answer is actually Yorinda Van Klinken. So if you were leaning toward the second option, nice guess. And definitely give yourselves that point for catching the first mix-up. You earned it.
Oh, thank you. So, Andy, you are taking the lead. We're going to do one more question on account of trying not to get more than 3 points in one day. But go ahead and give us one more question. If you can, for this last question, make it about distance running races of some kind, like professional distance running races from this year.
Absolutely. Let's wrap it up with a distance running question. Here it is. In the 2025 Boston Marathon, a Kenyan runner set a new course record in the women's race. Who was this record-setting winner? A. Bridget Kosgei. B. Paris Jepchirchir. Sharon Lekedi. D. Ruth Chepgetich. Take your pick and let's see if you get this one right.
Oh.
Do you know?
Oh.
You don't know?
I was thinking last year's winner.
All right, I've got it.
Wait. Can he repeat the?
Okay, repeat those options for us one more time, please.
Of course, here are the options again. A. Bridget Kosgei. B. Paris Jepchirchir. C. Sharon Lekedi. D. Ruth Chepgetich. Go ahead and pick your guess from those 4.
Okay, ready, set, go. Uh-oh.
Oh, I got it wrong.
Uh-oh.
you're-
Okay, the correct answer was Sharon Lekedi. Is that right?
You got it. Yep, the correct answer is indeed Sharon Lekedi. She was the one who set that new course record in Boston this year. Nicely done, and great job on the trivia.
Wonderful. Thanks. Go ahead and say farewell to the audience.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me on, and thanks to all the A to Z running listeners for joining in. This was a blast. Keep those running shoes laced up, and I'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
Keep those running shoes laced up. And that should be enough for the time today. So, Andy and Zach end this round with a tie. 2 points each. Nicely done. And we'll just have to see if Andy holds up her end of the bargain
Yeah.
next time. Maybe. I wouldn't bet on it. There's a lot going on in the Ripley household.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Zach, what do we have up next week? You said we're going to start with our don'ts.
We're going to tell you things to stop doing. And we're going to
Okay.
begin those next week.
And if you've missed any of our previous content, make sure you listen up because we have been talking about the 7 rules to realizing your dreams.
9.
The 9. Okay, it's about time to go to bed. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.